It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship, our first round of 9 for 2024. It's MotoAmerica Superbikes at Road Atlanta as we set the stage for Supersport in Braselton, Georgia from Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. Boy, and Supersport is a packed field of riders this season. And if you're new to MotoAmerica road racing, welcome to one of the best classes in all the world. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, staying alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, here we are, Supersport. We have some players that have been here last year, but the number one plate is not here this year.
Yeah, it's too bad that we're not getting to see Xavi Forrest. So we would expect to see somebody like Ty Scott, who finished second in the championship, jump up this year, and he's going to be the main guy.
And you know what is very interesting is that Matthew Skultz, who has been in Superbike for so long, 5 race winners in Superbike, he is now in this field after a decade of not being on a middleweight sport bike.
Yeah, it's crazy. And some people would think it's going to be easy going from a Superbike to a Supersport bike. But for Matthew Skultz, this is going to be a new opportunity for him in another class that we haven't actually seen him here in MotoAmerica. He's had some teething problems this weekend, as happens sometimes in those first weekends out. But expect to see Matthew chip away at it.
And this for Matthew Skultz, of course, we have seen him on the Superbike, but boy, you're going to get rid of 400 cc's of displacement. Now, another rider, Jay, is going to be Stefano Mesa. Mesa himself is finished third in the championship this year, and he's looking like a championship favorite.
Yeah, one of the key players in his corner this year is going to be Derek Keyes. We've seen Derek work with some other riders on the ZX6 and have a lot of success with it. We know what a good rider Stefano is. We've seen him break lap records everywhere. So again, he's going to be another major player. Just get this first round out of the way and see where the points fall.
And Jason, I think the number one favorite for the championship has to be Ty Scott. He finished second in the points behind Forrest, and he's coming off of a great end of season last year.
Yeah, he's going to come in here with a lot of confidence. He's been with this team now for a couple years. And for Ty Scott, he knows that they've got this GS6R 750 sorted. He's raced against the best. He's beat the best that they've thrown at him in this class. You see here, Greg, he's great in the dry, he's great in the rain. So this guy's the total package for sure.
And for Ty Scott, he's coming off of an outstanding season, especially late in the season. He was second in the championship. He had 4 wins in 7 races to close off the season.
And I think that when you look at those last the last 7 races, he wins 4 of them. That's a big momentum going into the winter. I know that they've made that bike better down at M4, and you can see here he had 200 points in his last 10 races with 9 podiums.
Matthew Skultz isn't the only Superbike racer in Supersport. We have another one, and he's with the third member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopa, right now.
That's right, Greg, and it's a very familiar face in MotoAmerica. Corey Alexander, we've seen him in Stock 1000 with the championship and in the Superbike class, but for the full season on the Supersport, Corey, it's quite a transition from the big bike to the Supersport machine. What mentally and physically have you had to navigate?
Yeah, I'm trying to get little like these guys up in front of me, but it hasn't worked so far, so I think we're stuck with that. But yeah, overall, just getting comfortable on this bike. Every bike I get on is always a challenge for a little while just to get all the ergonomics comfortable for me, but the whole Rahal Ducati team is doing a really great job. These last few weeks have been pretty pivotal for us, and as you can see, Peter's on the front row. We're right here. Kayla's not too far behind us, so really good for the whole effort. A lot of confidence going into this weekend, and then the races following.
Best of luck out there. Thank you, Corey. Another rider making a transition this season is our back-to-back Twins Cup champion, Blake Davis. Blake, starting from the front row for your very first full season on the Supersport machine, what was the expectation coming into the weekend, and was it this?
Yeah, no, we definitely didn't expect this. I was kind of just hoping to get a solid top 10 finish and learn as much as I could, but being on the front row is amazing for me. I've never been that good at qualifying, so being here is big deal for me, and hopefully I can do better in the race, move up some.
All right, Blake Davis got some confidence heading into race 1, guys.
And he's not the only one. Yamaha has a lot of confidence in the young Blake Davis, and that's why they've invested in his program. Jason, Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. It's a roller coaster, but it generates a lot of close racing.
It really does, and I think nowhere that we go is it more important to get a good start and then make it clean, because you see that turn 2, 3, 4 section, Greg. It's very one-lined up there. Got to get yourself in a good position at the start. You're going to rip down through those famous S's through turn 5 over towards turn 7. Got to get a good drive out of there onto that big long back straightaway where we'll see these bikes drafting past each other all day long down into the hard braking turn 10, up over the hill down into another very hard braking turn 12. And Greg, a little bit like Coda here, we have a short run to that checkered flag.
So that's Michelin Race Road Atlanta. We have a full field of talented racers. We've seen some old faces and some new faces. How about this rider, Tamburini on the MV Augusta? That's a full-time effort coming into the field. And how about Taylor Knapp? We know him from years past. He's on a Triumph Daytona Moto 2 765. Boy, this class keeps growing. Race action coming at you after this.
See the grid now set and all of the riders out there and ready to go for this Supersport race. Roger, we had a lot of riders entered and not enough grid places for all of them. The growth of this class, as you look at Matthew Skoltz getting ready now, what does it say about the sport?
Well, I think, you know, when MotoAmerica moved to the next gen rules and just, you know, I knew it wasn't going to be perfect right away, but able to balance all the different brands is just let more people come into the class. More sponsorship means more riders, and I think that's the big part about it. Was able to change the rules, take that risk for, and now you can just see how packed. I mean, Supersport grid a couple years ago was 17 or 18 riders. Now, fast forward to now, we have 44 riders entered into this class. You look down the brand, like just. Let's go in the front row, Suzuki, Yamaha, Ducati. And what do you want? 3 different brands on the front row. We have a Kawasaki 9th, MV 8th. I mean, just 4 or 5 different brands in the top 9.
That was Blake Davis that you saw. He is on the front row on that Yamaha, the number 22 bike, and he's being coached by Kyle Wyman from here on out. So a lot of growth that's happening in these riders. They realize the challenge that's in front of them, and in order to get better, the work's got to go in.
Yeah, and just for Blake to have a guy that's been through everything, you know, ask him questions and you know, ask the right questions. Like, you know, when you're talking to your crew, that's the hardest thing as a kid, as a young rider, is asking the right questions and all the different things that goes into it. The only way to get it is through experience, and you get a coach, and they really help you speed that process up.
Grid is being cleared of all team personnel. You see PJ Jacobson there on that number 15, the Rahal Ducati. You look at Stefano Mesa. He's further back than what we're used to, inside of the top 10 still, but he's back in 9th. Yeah,
not where we're used to see Stefano, but we know when the race comes, he's able to find the speed. Just struggled a little bit so far this weekend. Usually see him the first couple rows, but when the race starts, I think Stefano is one of those guys that can make his way toward the front of the pack.
Now everybody awaiting the warm-up lap as everybody's now underway, and they're going to get their last look at this racetrack before they go back into their grid position. You saw the foot slip off from one of the riders that's about mid-pack right now, and they'll have to get their grid positions and get ready to go. Everybody coming around, going to be clean here. Just get around, right, Roger?
That's right, make it back.
We're going to sit it back next door to Greg and Jason.
Steel Commander Superbike coverage is brought to you by Steel Commander Corps, a leading steel building manufacturer offering expertise, innovation, and a dedication to quality. And by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
All right, welcome back to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta here as we are ready for our first Supersport race of the season. And they're on the warm-up lap right now, JP. What are you doing on the warm-up lap, Jason?
Well, this is the time when you're just getting those nerves out. You've done all the work for the weekend as far as preparing for the race, and now it's just time to get a good solid warm-up lap, get those tires up to temperatures. We get a look here at the starting grid.
So Ty Scott, Blake Davis, and PJ Jacobson round out row number 1.
And a great start here today for Jake Lewis, Corey Alexander, and you saw Gerardo also, Teague Hobbs, Tamburini Mesa, and then Anthony Skoltz and Kayla Yakov just outside of row 4. Back a little further, Linares, who I haven't seen. Alfonso Linares doing a great job. Nassani, Collins, Knapp, Max Van, and Hayden Bickneys. Then we have Soltis, LaRoche, Shane Maggs, and then Silva, Bruno Silva, both the Silva brothers back there, and Sil Halter, Owen Williams, Enriquez, and Grigo with Rivera, Horney, and Omen. Row 11, Silva again, and Ivy, it's the era. So I mean, this great, Greg, 33 riders deep. The pace is obviously very fast at front. A couple guys, I think, Blake Davis, I don't want to say he's a surprise. He's just a great young rider. I think Jake Lewis in 4th is a tremendous effort so far, as well as Gerardo there in 6th. So we're keeping an eye out on those two.
And, of course, your pole time by Tyler Scott at a 1:27.935, the closest that we have seen in Supersport since Garrett Gerloff set the track record here in 2017 at a 27.860. 18 laps scheduled for this one. When those red lights go off, we're going racing. It's Supersport Race number 1, the first of the season. And away we go, and it looks like the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki of Tyler Scott gets a good launch. And the number 70 bike is going to lead us into turn number 1. And P.J. Jacobson also on that yellow Ducati, off to a good start. He's on that Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel.
And let's keep in mind, P.J. Jacobson won Superbike races last year here in the MotoAmerica Championship. So P.J. dropping back down, he fits that bike so absolutely perfect. And, that team, they've been working really hard since Daytona, as you heard Corey talk about at the beginning. But P.J. Jacobson is definitely one of the class championship favorites for the year.
So number 15, if you're used to looking at the 99 of PJ, get used to the number 15. And then it looks like it's going to be the 22 of Blake Davis on that N2 Racing bobblehead moto Yamaha R6. So we got a bunch of different manufacturers up front, including Maximiliano Gerardo on the Suzuki GSX-R 750 in the 161. He's in 4th place.
That's amazing. I mean, just to see what he's doing. He was in the B group session at Daytona for practicing qualifying, and you look at what he's doing now. As PJ drafts up to that Suzuki GSX-R 750 and is able to put himself in a position to outbrake Ty Scott down into the turn 10 on the first lap. PJ Jacobson looking to lead his first lap of the year here at Road Atlanta.
Down the hill we go to the final corner. And P.J. Jacobson leads us onto the front straightaway. And look at that Ducati spin up on the first lap. No traction control, no rider aids on that motorcycle. It's all right wrist for P.J. Jacobson. And he leads into turn number 1. Going on to lap number 2 of 18.
Yeah, and you're going to see here now. You see Blake
up the
Davis.
inside. That's a bold move.
That is such a bold move up that hill, Greg, because it's really narrow. And when you're turning into that left, you can't see the next series of corners. So having some markers and things up there is going to be really good. Now, Blake Davis, to me, at the beginning of the Daytona 200 was really, really aggressive, almost a little bit frantic. And so far, this first lap, watching him, he looks much more poised. He didn't get too worried when those guys got away a little bit at the opening lap. And you can see PJ now trying to make a little break himself while these tires are new. These guys with experience, Greg, they know how important it is these first couple laps to try to clear yourself away from the field.
Cannot say enough about Maximiliano Gerardo from Uruguay on the Top Pro Racing GSX-R 750 in 4th place. Welcome to the show, as he has got Corey Alexander, the number 23 on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Roller Dian forming Panigale V2 there. And it looks like it's going to be the 22 of Davis who makes a bid for the lead. And he's going to lead into 10A as he transitions back into 10B. So now a Yamaha takes over the top spot.
This young man rides, Greg. Like I said, he's super smooth. He's won 2 championships. He's not scared of anybody. And, you know, the time that he spends on this R6, every lap he spins, he's just going to continue to get better. He's going to lead lap 2 here. We've got about a 7-rider, 8-rider breakaway. And how about Roberto Tamburini on that MV Agusta is just off the back of this group here. So Tamburini on another brand here in MotoAmerica doing a great job.
So Blake Davis at 1:28.992, fastest lap of the race so far. What do you got, Hannah?
Fastest lap of the race so far, and Blake was clicking off consistent 28 lap times all morning long. So that was a really big improvement for him heading into this weekend. And he said he thinks he's got some more pace in him come race time. You know, he's not really familiar with racing around a lot of these guys, but he does have some competition in Tyler Scott. They grew up together. He said he's still learning the R6. They rode it in some endurance racing and some track days, but he's settling in really nicely. The main difference is that it's much faster than the twin. Things come up so much quicker, but it handles so well, and it feels like he can use that to his advantage, especially through the corners.
Yeah, the hand of that bike looks really solid right now under him. And as far as the speeds and things go, you saw he was able to draft those guys, Greg, on that last lap. PJ now in the draft of that R6. He's going to pull out of the draft and find himself down the inside of Davis. And we'll see what ends up happening here. Yep, PJ's going to make that pass. Ty Scott sitting back there watching along with Gerardo and Corey Alexander, who is also just sitting there in 5th place. Corey, as we know, so good on the edge of the tire. Coming from 1,000 to the Supersport machine is definitely going to be a transition for him because of his size, Greg. And, you know, the thing is for him to be able to stay there, that's what he's got to do right now, is just try to stay with these lead 4 guys. Gerardo is by far and away the surprise of this group, although he's been very quick in practice and qualifying.
And Jay, to your point, as it looks like Davis is trying to make a move, is he going to go back up the inside in turn number 2? No, he doesn't do that one. But Jay, back in 9th place is Matthew Skoltz, and when I spoke with Skoltz after a decade of riding superbikes, he said the one thing is going through the corner. Initially, he was lifting the R6 up on the meat of the tire. He said he would lose RPM because obviously you don't have as much drive. So it was like leaving it on the edge of the tire and rolling through the corner was so critical, and it's something that Skoltz back in 9th is still working on.
Well, and that comes from Superbike, doesn't it? Through the advancement of electronics, you get used to trusting what the bike does on the edge of the tire, and you can open the throttle a lot more with some heavy electronics that the Superbikes have. On these bikes here, you really don't want to be doing that, do you? You want to try to get the bike through the corners as quick as you can, and you can do more on the edge of the tire with these bikes than you can with a Superbike.
PJ Jacobsen continues to lead the way, the number 15 on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel Ducati Panigale V2. And just like that, Blake Davis takes over the lead, the number 22 on the N2 Racing bobblehead Yamaha R6. And keep in mind, the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki, the number 70, your pole sitter Tyler Scott on the GSXR 750 in 3rd place. This is a battle on the racetrack, but it's also a battle of next generation motorcycles versus the older generation. The R6 being the older generation, the next gen being the big V-twin Ducati and the GSXR 750, which are all electronically controlled to make an even playing field. And I have to say, the technical partners here at MotoAmerica and what they've done, things look pretty good at this big Road Atlanta racetrack, Jay, as they're all coming in right around 160 miles per hour here in the middleweight sport bike category.
Oh, Blake has a problem. Blake must have just got kicked up out of the seat or something out of that little chicane, and you could see where it put him on the track. So Blake had a little bit of a problem out of that turn 2-3 area. Not sure if our cameras will get that one, but you can see it just separated the field just a little bit. Greg, to your point, we got 4 different manufacturers in the top 8 right now.
Yeah, so for Blake Davis on that R6, let's see what happened, Jay. Left part of your screen.
Yeah, this is the section I was talking about. It's blind coming in here. Sometimes you can put a wheel off out into the dirt on this next left. Let's see if that's what happens. Yeah.
Oh, he just went straight.
He just ran through that grass a little bit. Probably made him just a little bit late in that right-hander, and yeah, gave up a little bit of time, but you can see he's right back in it now.
He needed to, I would think, Jay, because the one thing that the race direction would look at is if he gained any time, he might get a penalty. So it was good of him to kind of check up and give himself a big gap, but he's able to close it right back up on the straightaway. And boy, Jay, so impressed with the lap times these riders are doing in this race. As we come to the stripe, it's going to be 13 to go for this one. And it's going to be PJ Jacobsen who leads this lap. Last time by, it was Blake Davis. And you can see PJ with all of his dirt track experience getting the thing sideways coming onto the front straightaway. And now we have about 5 riders that have broken free from the rest of the field.
Yeah, Matthew Skoltz, Greg, back in 9th place right now. I mentioned him. He is the fastest rider of the group right now. He is chipping away now. Tell a little story about Matthew. He struggled this weekend. That team, like I said earlier, has gone through some teething problems as PJ hustles that bike down through those S's. But Matthew Skoltz at a 28.9. He's back in 9th place back there behind this leading group of 5. You can see the bike on the tail end of this 4 coming into our shot now. That's going to be Matthew Skoltz. This almost is like, really, Greg, this is like his second time on track all weekend. So that team has done a tremendous job to put a good machine under him. They just had to get it running, and they've done so now.
We know if you've been watching racing a long time, you're not going to recognize the colors at the number 11 on the Strack Racing Yamaha R6, but a brilliant-looking motorcycle, great-looking kit. And, yeah, for those of us that have seen Skoltz, obviously in that gold and red and black for years and years, you look at it and you say, hey, this is it. This is the new deal for the number 11 as he's in this second group. And back there is Mesa, Lewis, Tamburini as well. As now up into 3rd place goes Gerardo from Uruguay on the 161. And there's Skoltz with big moves. So just like that, he's going to go by Mesa on the Kawasaki and Tamburini on the MV Agusta.
Wow.
So Tamburini having a good run himself, the number 42. He's on the Equity MV Augusta by MP13 Racing. That is the Augusta F3 RR bike, a bike that has won races in World Supersport and now gets to race full-time here in MotoAmerica. And Jay, left part of your screen.
You're going to see Matthew here in the background. He's going to shoot up underneath both those guys, and he gets Mesa and Tamburini in one foul swoop. This is such a great salvage job for him. I mean, I'm sure if you'd have told him yesterday that he was going to be running the quickest lap of the race, he probably would have laughed at you because they, like I said, the problems that they were incurring. Now he's on the back of Jake Lewis, and those two guys are trying to separate themselves from the guys behind them. But we have a definitive breakup here at the front with our first five of Jacobson, Davis, Gerardo, Ty Scott, and Corey Alexander. And you know, for these four guys in the front, they're not going to be used to racing around that number 161. They haven't probably got to see him or race with him before. And for him, what a great opportunity to race with some of the best talent we have here in MotoAmerica and learn what each rider's idiosyncrasies are.
So there's Matthew Skultz in the draft. And hey, by the way, play MotoAmerica for cash both today and tomorrow during Supersport and Superbike and the Baggers race. Go to nxtbets.com/playma to find out more and find out the latest odds. Down the hill we come. This will be 11 laps to go. PJ Jacobson continues to lead. Blake Davis right on his tailpipe.
And this is kind of a part of the race, Greg, where you're settling in a little bit. You're in that middle part of the grind of the race here. PJ's doing all the hard work out front. Blake is probably just kind of hanging back there, watching a little bit. You're doing a lot of pit board reading at this stage, and you're trying to identify what the guys in front of you, how their tires are looking, and the things that are moving around.
There's certainly a lot at play for these guys to think about. When I talked to PJ Jacobson, he's another rider that's making the transition from the bigger bike to the Supersport machine, and he said you ride a little bit different on the 600, carrying more corner speed. It's less aggressive, different handling, a bit easier than the Superbike, but by no means easy. But he's getting more comfortable with the bike the more seat time that he gets. He's certainly off to a fresh start here this weekend.
Yeah, and of course, the team that PJ races for, that Rahal Ducati Moto with Expel team, just so many improvements from when they showed up to Daytona, which was so late when they made the announcement in the season. And there's been so vast improvements, even in the internal structure of that team. And they've shown really, really great improvements here with the way the team works and how quickly they were able to get this bike set up for PJ Jacobson as he continues to learn this middleweight class and get back up to speed. And PJ setting the pace right now. And really, Jay, it doesn't look like, as you say, how this middle part of the race is kind of settled down. No one looks to be an extreme bother. I know for Ty Scott, he was able to get around Gerardo and get back up into third place because if he sees Jacobson and Davis going away, he's going to miss the opportunity to possibly win this race in 10 laps from now.
Well, it kind of makes you wonder. Ty Scott looked like he was just kind of maybe taking it easy on tires. He fell back there behind Gerardo. Sees the two guys up front. 10 to go. Still got a long way to go in this race. Doesn't want to let these two guys get that far away where it could be a problem to really try to burn some qualifying laps the last 2 or 3. If he can kind of stick in here in the middle of this, five-way battle. You can see Gerardo now just dropping back a little bit. So first time for him being up front. He is going to have learned a lot, but it looks like it could be a little bit of a struggle. That guy behind them, though, Matthew Skultz, keeps on going forward. 29.0 that last time for Matthew. He was the quickest of the top 6 riders, and he's broke away from that group behind him even.
All right, looking here, Jason, at the 23 of Corey Alexander on the Rahal Ducati Moto with Roller Die Informing. He mentioned that he was trying to get small. Let's talk about how he comes in at about, what, 6'4"?
6'3", yeah, probably about 6'3"-ish. And, it's hard to get him on a big bike, let alone one of these smaller bikes. And they've done a lot to try to get him to fit better on that bike. He's been riding one during the winter in the Winter Series. Ty Scott around the outside of Blake Davis.
Wow.
Yeah, he just made that transition really quickly in the braking area and finds himself just to the outside. Is Blake going to turn back up underneath him? Not quite close enough as they come down the hill. But, yeah, they've been working on trying to get Corey's frame sitting a little bit better on that motorcycle. And, for Corey, sometimes when you think about the electronics and things, Corey's, like I said earlier, he's so good on the edge of the tire on that bike that he's not afraid of the tires going a little bit off. And you'd pretty much make him a favorite if everybody's tires were to go off the same way. Corey has a really good ability. Look at Ty Scott. He's on the far left-hand side of the track here. Sees that's not going to work. Transitions back over to the right. And he's right behind Davis and just rolls around the outside of him. Let's go with that lever.
So that Vision Wheel M4 XR Suzuki now in second place. That's your pole sitter.
You see PJ lighting it up there, too, on the exit of 10B.
A lot of wheel spin with PJ.
Yeah, a lot of wheel spin.
For really, Jason, from the very opening lap, if you remember, he comes out of the last corner onto the front straightaway, already spinning the thing up.
But he's got so much bike control. All these guys do. They have amazing bike control. And if you follow PJ on Instagram, you see he's always testing or training at the Super Motard track. So that's going to be something that he is just comfortable doing right now on that Ducati. So for PJ getting that thing a little bit sideways, the other thing that goes in PJ's favor is he is one of the smaller guys as well. So even though that bike's lighting up, there's not a lot of weight pushed on that tire. Ty Scott now making a bid to take this lead, and he's going to come back across the nose of PJ, and Blake Davis trying to take advantage as well. Isn't going to make it, but Ty Scott back to the front as they head down into turn 10.
So a Suzuki GSX-R 750 takes over from a Ducati Panigale V2 and the Yamaha R6, and we have Yamaha, Suzuki, MV Agusta, Kawasaki, Ducati, all in the top 10, Hannah.
That's right, including the MV of Tamburini. You've got 5 different manufacturers in that top 8 right now, which is really a testament to how hard that MotoAmerica has worked on the competitive balance. I spoke to MotoAmerica's technical director, Teague Dane, and he told me they actually have not made any changes to the regulations for this class since Brainerd of last year. So really good work by MotoAmerica.
Yeah, certainly, and good work by Tyler Scott as he goes fastest lap of the race now, Jay, at a 1:28.773 for Ty Scott, as he's trying to break away from P.J. Jacobsen and Blake Davis. And maybe at this point, Jay, we saw a little bit too much rear wheel spin from P.J. Jacobsen, and maybe that Dunlop just can't take the pace of the riders up front, at least right now.
Yeah, well, Ty Scott did a good job just sitting back there watching, didn't he? And I could be wrong on that with P.J. as far as the bike spinning up, but with him, he's so used to riding it that way, and he always has looked comfortable doing it. Back here, the battle for fourth continues to rage on. These two are still trying to hold on to that lead 3. Podium is still sitting right in front of everybody.
Boy, when you come to a MotoAmerica event this year, you definitely want to go take a look at the top pro racing team. That's rider Gerardo from Uruguay in 4th place. The effort is huge. They have Superbike, Stock 1000, Supersport, and of course Sean Dillon Kelly back in action in the Superbike category. Teammates with Gerardo in 4th place right now, but he's got Corey Alexander now takes the spot. So Alexander moves into 4th place, but can't say enough about what's going on with the 161 on a brand new team this year, and the size of that semi, it's really impressive.
Yeah, and just behind Corey and Gerardo is that number 11. He's getting closer, isn't he, Greg? You could see Matthew Skultz just in the back shot there. He's getting closer.
No,
we got
Ty
Scott has crashed, heading up to turn 2 into the 3-4 area. That's going to probably be on the front brake, Greg, as you get to the top there. And he has crashed. Corner workers doing an amazing job. That is a high-risk place for those corner workers to be. All the riders are going to get through there. They're getting that bike out of the way, so heads up to those guys.
Huge tumble for Ty Scott out of this race, and you can see that the airbag in his leathers did the job. The Uri helmet helped him out as he got up right away, but that was a big one.
Look at these 3 guys here, Greg. They are literally getting that bike and trying to get it moved, and it looks like the front wheel is absolutely locked.
So they're trying to get that bike moved to try to get this in Ty Scott. Boy, he's going to be feeling that one, and that was after Blake Davis went 28.641.
Oh, man, these guys, these are the heroes right here. Those corner workers, they got that bike out of the way. We didn't have to stop the race, which is good because now we got a big battle at the front. Blake Davis, P.J. Jacobsen, Corey Alexander, Gerardo is still there, and Greg just further back. And here's that crash. We didn't get it from the beginning, but that's generally going to be just a little bit too much front brake as you come up over the top of the crest of that hill. And if you got that front brake on with any lean at all, that's what's going to happen. You see P.J. go through here. He's going to get his hand up in the air.
Boy, incredible.
See that?
Incredible with the safety gear.
Yep.
Back to live pictures. It's Blake Davis leading the way. P.J. Jacobsen. Boy, now this falls into his hands. And here comes Matthew Skultz into 5th place. Now we're at 6 laps to go. Is there enough tire underneath and enough time for Matthew Skultz to possibly put his track racing motorcycle on the podium?
I mean, amazing work here. This is amazing work for him. I mean, we got this lead group of 5 now that are up at the front, and Matthew has chipped away.
He goes to 4th.
Yes, he does. He gets 4th as they go into turn 5. The only problem with that pass there is it's going to make that gap a little bit bigger. So now he's going to have a little bit more hard work to do to catch those guys. But every time I've watched him, Greg, it looks like his bike is on rails. Like, it doesn't look like he's been too hard on the tires at all.
All right, so our 9th lead change of this one, according to my ticker, And now P.J. Jacobson goes into the spot. And there's lap traffic getting out of the way, so no dramas there for these lead 3. Now with about 5.5 laps to go, who's going to sort themselves out? And can Matthew Skoltz make this a 4-rider affair as the GSXR 750 goes back around the Yamaha R6 on the back straightaway? Corey on the brakes. Alexander goes up into second spot. That was nice and tidy. No issue there for him. And now look at Skoltz getting the drive as he gets the position back down into turn 10A, turn B. Down to the bottom of the hill they go, and PJ protecting the inside line. Corey trying to get a drive. And boy, the size difference you can clearly see. That's the same motorcycle, same team. That's Ray Hall Ducati Moto with Expel for the yellow bike and with Roller Die Informing for the orange motorcycle.
You saw Corey shaking his head, and that's almost a feel of like, hey, like we can't let Blake get away from us right now. But PJ had a run on him, as you see, coming down that hill and makes that pass nice and clean on the 23 of Corey Alexander. Two teammates, though, don't want to hold each other up. Remember, they were teammates last year as well. Ooh. As they now are into that traffic. Lapping number 92. It looks like Joel Ullman they're lapping right now, Greg. So they get him through turn 5, and Skoltz is on the back of him.
Matthew Skoltz, Strack Racing Yamaha R6. What does he have for these 3? He's joined the party now. The question is, does he keep his momentum moving forward, or does he cool it down a little bit and let a couple more laps play out?
I don't think so. I think Matthew right now is just on a roll, and for him to come from where he's as far back as he was, there was a lot of times, Greg, where there was 3-4 seconds of nobody in front of him. So he's done this on his own, getting this bike back up to the front as nicely as he has. And, you know, there with 5 laps to go, Matthew might think to himself, okay, I've made it this far. Now let's try to plan a strategy for late in the race here. But you've been able to watch him really put that bike anywhere he wants. And look how much grip he still looks like he has as he accelerates out of 10B as they come down to turn 12 to complete another lap.
There's only one other rider that's active right now who's been in the 28s all race long, and that's our current leader, Blake Davis, on that N2 Racing bobblehead entry on that Yamaha. So the Yamaha R6 is proving very fast here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta, and Davis continues to lead the way. And when he talked to Hannah on the grid, Jay, he said he didn't expect to be in the position he's in, but he's here. And Blake Davis knows how to win races. It may not be in Supersport yet, but it certainly has been his career in MotoAmerica. And I mentioned before, Yamaha has their eyes on this young man, and they are supporting this effort. And they want to keep him in the fold moving forward because they really like what Blake Davis has to offer. But a little wheel in the air, and there goes P.J. Jacobson back to the point.
Yeah, now we're going to see if the two tall guys behind these two in front have anything as far as drafting ability down this big, long straightaway with 4.5 laps to go. This is the best spot Matthew has been in behind our leaders. Gerardo has just dropped off the back a little bit. He was about a half a second slower than our lead group the last time. Still a tremendous effort for that white bike in fifth place right now as Blake Davis, PJ, and Corey all come down into turn 10. Corey's going to have another look at PJ Jacobson as they turn the bikes into turn 10. He's going to make that pass.
PJ's a little wide. Skoltz has nowhere to go on the number 11. So good really move from Corey Alexander, and it also shows us that at least in a double bike draft, Corey Alexander can be there. You know, it's a little bit of a weight just because he's taller. Corey's very skinny, but Jay, looking at it, it's the fact that those elbows, those shoulders are out in the wind so much, especially on that very narrow V2 Ducati Panigale.
I think Corey wants a lap where he could be right behind Blake Davis through this section, and PJ was able to go back through on them, but they're going to come up to some traffic right now.
Skoltz got by.
And Skoltz is through, yes. Yeah, good call there, but this is the worst place to catch people, right in this little section. It's very one line down here. You'll see Blake get by one of them on the left, and that's going to create a spot where he can put somebody between him and PJ, as you see there.
And that's the proper move from the lap traffic, Jay, especially in this one-line S section there, is the blue flags fly and let them know they're there, but to pull over and disrupt the race would be really bad. So you got to hold your line and hold your speed as much as fast as you can go. But to the front, as we look at it, it's going to be the 22 of Blake Davis, and then it's the 15 of P.J. Jacobson and the 11 of Matthew Skoltz. If you're just tuning in, yes, Skoltz is in the MotoAmerica Supersport category, and he came from way back.
Yeah, without question, the ride of the day right here belongs to Matthew Skoltz to put himself back into this spot as P.J. Jacobson's going to have a look. Blake Davis is going to lead them here. 10, 10B out of here. Which bike looks the best? Right now, I think Matthew Skoltz's bike looks the best as far as tires go, and this guy has done no laps around here this weekend. I know they were testing a little bit last week, and they've tested a couple times, but not here in Atlanta. He missed the whole first session. He missed the whole second session yesterday. And you can see here as he goes up underneath, this is such a wild place to pass Corey Alexander into that very tight, twisty little turn 2-3 area. He goes over that right curbing, and you might see him try to do something similar here.
I was thinking the same thing with a lap and a half to go, and there he goes. He's going to go around P.J. Jacobson and make that one work. So now Matthew Skoltz up into second place, and keep in mind, this is an incredible ride from Skoltz. The last time he was full-time in Supersport, this middleweight category, was back in 14. Is now Skoltz goes for the lead, and he takes over. And that was in South Africa. And Skoltz, who won a lot of races back in 2014 in this class, he gets the lead for a moment, but PJ takes advantage of all the fighting, and he goes to the point with a lap and a half to go.
I mean, he could put that bike anywhere. Those two passes he just made in those spots, I can't tell the viewers at home how tight that gets in those places. That turn 2-3 area at the top is really, really one line, but he made that work, and he's going over that right curbing. So they're going to be coming in here to the white flag lap. Now they all know Matthew Skoltz is in the picture. He has shown himself to Blake Davis, and he has shown himself to P.J. Jacobson. So now they are going to be wary and close those doors that Matthew just showed he had the possibility of squeezing through.
Now let's talk about Blake Davis and the job he's doing. Of these four riders in this group, Blake Davis is the one who's advancing into Supersport, where we have 3 Superbike riders that have gone down to Supersport.
Wow.
So you talk about the speed difference in your brain. Blake Davis right now putting on an outstanding performance.
Yeah, and what it does for a young guy's confidence like that as they go into the white flag lap, you got to remember, Greg, this kid's won 2 Twins Cup championships for a reason. He's not afraid of the pressure. I've seen him so far back in the points last year in Twins Cup keep chipping away, getting those wins. Next thing you know, he's leading the championship. So for the 22, he's in a really good spot right now. He has shown that he's been able to draft the GSXR 750s and the Ducatis, and so now he is in a good spot to be up behind P.J. Jacobson as they come out of turn 7. PJ's going really good through those S's and trying to create a gap.
Corey Alexander losing touch ever so slightly with this group, but P.J. Jacobson, he's saving it all for the last lap. He's putting the hammer down, but Blake Davis and his Yamaha R6 have been able to pass P.J. Jacobson on the back straightaway.
And if you watch there, Blake was able to let that R6 run through the middle of turn 6 and 7 and close some of that gap. He's in a good spot right now, because if he gets the sneak of that draft, he's going to slingshot past P.J. on the left side. As you can see them coming down the hill here, he was far enough back, gets that slingshot, Greg, and it's almost like somebody's whipping you past. PJ's going to go late on the brakes. Both of them go down to turn 10.
Deep is there room, and it's going to be Blake Davis who's able to hold on to it and come out from underneath the bridge. But P.J. Jacobson so close. Is he going to make a run on him on the inside? He does. There goes the 15 down the hill. Can he get it turned? Onto this front straightaway they go. P.J. sideways behind the bubble. To the checkered flag they come, and it's going to be P.J. Jacobson with the win over Blake Davis, Matthew Skoltz, Corey Alexander, and Gerardo. And the margin of victory is 1/10 of a second for P.J. Jacobson on the Ray Hall Ducati Moto with XPEL in their second event in MotoAmerica. And the Ray Hall team takes the big victory here in Supersport.
Yeah, amazing run by P.J. Jacobson. Exactly what you would expect. How many different bikes has P.J. Jacobson ridden? How much experience this guy has? You wouldn't expect anything less than to see the 15 do that a bunch this year. Matthew Skoltz brings that Yamaha home in third. His race has to be an interesting one to hear about. Corey Alexander, Gerardo Lewis. How about Roberto Tamarini, 7th on the MV Agusta? What an effort for them. Mesa, Kayla Yakov ends up 9th, and Teague Hobbs, 10th.
Got to give a nod to Max Van as well, coming from our Junior Cup category. Back in 13th, scoring himself a couple of points. Another replay. Jay, this was the pass for the lead for the moment for Blake Davis.
Yep, and all PJ does here is he gets his bike turned a little sooner. Blake gets a little bit out wide, and that allowed PJ the run on the way down to this final very tricky, very steep turn 12. And from this point on, PJ gets that thing broad sliding out of that last corner and holds on for victory. But for Blake Davis, what a debut for us here for 2024 in the Supersport class.
What motorcycle control P.J. Jacobson has, and he was able to get the bike turned and get on the gas. And here's the race pace, Jason. So 29.122 on lap number 2, for P.J. Jacobson, and you can see that group in the middle, but it was all about this end. And fastest lap of the race goes 28.640 to Blake Davis very late in the race.
And you see on lap 11, he did a minute 32. And that was when we saw that incident with Ty Scott, and then he was able to get right back down at his times. And that late race, last lap, minute 29 lap time is done battling at the front.
Wow, P.J. Jacobson, Davis, Schultz. Yeah, this is Supersport. And when we come back, we're going to hear from P.J. to see how he got the job done.
Roger, as we sat here and watched that race unfold, and we watched Matthew Schultz come up through the field, but it was exciting from start to finish because P.J. Jacobson, you could tell from the get-go he wanted it.
Yeah, P.J. wanted it bad, and like you said, what a great race. It was awesome to watch Matt. We said something about lap 8 that he was going to be there by the end, and he worked his way through and was able to get there. And Tyler Scott also was really fast early on. I think he made that mistake. We hear a lot of riders talk about this week trying to make the break in the first section of the track to break the draft, and I'm sure Tyler was in the lead, probably wanted to see if he couldn't make the breakthrough there, and just made a mistake. It was just glad to see him get up and be okay.
That was Max Van on that number 48 that leaned the bike up against the wall. He's out there doing some push-ups, putting in the work. What's he doing?
I guess trying to get in shape for tomorrow.
He finished 13th today, and I guess the work starts early to move up the field tomorrow.
How many was it? Do we know?
I bet the fans out there were counting. I didn't see the whole shot, but think about the weight of all of the equipment that he's wearing. Could you put that on and still do that?
I don't think so, especially at the end of the race with it being hot and sweaty. It's a lot heavier, but no, I don't think I could do it. I could barely do one in street clothes right now.
Is that the same spot that Rocco did the backflips? That group of fans, they're getting a show today. P.J. Jacobson, your race winner. He's made his way over to the podium and to celebrate. You see his team come over to give him the hugs and celebrate with him. We're going to hear from our top 3 finishers shortly, but Roger, the gains, I mean, you can't say it enough. The amount of improvement that this Rahal Ducati team has been able to make since Daytona, it's just so impressive.
It's impressive. It's only been a month. I mean, they went to Daytona and they couldn't even really finish a session without having a lot of issues. And they went and they hired the right people. They got really good personnel, and they turned it around really quick. And when you hire the right people, that's the only way to do it. And I think with that team being new, that's one of the growing pains, is finding the right people to put in the right positions to make your team excel.
And you saw Blake Davis there celebrating his podium finish, finishing in 2nd today. He was able to stay up front. He took the lead at a couple of points with some guys coming out of Superbikes with P.J. Jacobson and Matthew Schultz, and that's got to be a huge shot of confidence for Blake Davis.
Huge confidence. Not only that, just be able to go to school with P.J. Jacobson, Matthew Schultz, Corey Alexander. I mean, 2 of those guys have won Superbike races. So, and he's so young. I mean, just a great ride by him, confidence, but also just what he learned.
All right, we're going to send it back over to Greg, Jason, and Hannah Lopa in just a moment as they are going to wrap up this Supersport race number 1 here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. We're going to get to hear from these top 3 finishers. So I'm going to send it next door. Here you go, Greg.
Oh boy, what a race we had in Supersport here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Our first one of the year. The top 3 covered by less than half a second, 1/10 of a second. And boy, Matthew Schultz there, that Strack Racing leathers he's got there, he came from way back. So P.J. Jacobson gets a 1/10 of a second victory over Blake Davis on a last corner, last lap move. Matthew Schultz comes from, I don't know, Jay, what, 8 seconds or something back? He was
way far back.
Way far back. I think he was in double digits at the start of the race. Corey Alexander holds on to 4th place. Gerardo, what a race for the 161. Could this be the coming out party? Jake Lewis. Tamburini, the first effort for MV Agusta F3RR in 2024, goes in 7th place, Mesa and Yakov. Let's get down to Hannah.
PJ Jacobsen atop the podium for the first time since Brainerd last year, this time on a brand new team, brand new motorcycle. A lot of battling back and forth in that race. You lost a little bit of time when Ty Scott crashed there. How were you able to catch back up and ultimately secure this win?
Yeah, I felt pretty good like in that group and stuff, and then Tyler came past and Blake, and I was like, okay, let me follow them and see if they can do some work now. But yeah, once Tyler crashed, I was like kind of like, oh man, it's going to be a red flag, you know, and I was really scared, just like trying to not hit Tyler. That was my main concern at that point, you know, and I didn't know if a red flag was coming out or not, so it obviously wasn't. I put my hand up, and so I lost some time, but yeah, it was a great race and everything. Blake was riding absolutely great. Corey was riding so well. So, and then Schultz came flying by. I was like, oh my God, this is getting pretty interesting. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I just kept fighting, and I felt like I didn't have much grip at the end. So I was kind of just like dirt tracking it pretty much everywhere, just trying to bring it home and try to get the win and be strong on the brakes.
Definitely a hard-fought win by PJ Jacobsen. Big congratulations to him and the Ray Hall Ducati team. Blake Davis making his Supersport official rookie debut. Led so much of that race, Blake. A really incredible performance by you. What was your biggest takeaway from this race that you can use to hopefully improve upon this position for tomorrow?
I think I was a little bit aggressive at the beginning of the race, but I felt really good overall. I think tomorrow I can have better pace towards the end of the race, and I just wanted to give a big thank you to N2 Racing, Bobblehead Moto, Yamaha, Evan Brothers, GB, Sunstar, just everyone that's helped me out. I know I'm forgetting a few. Oh, Dainese, KYT, just all my sponsors. It was a really good race. I had a blast.
Congrats, Blake. It's been really exciting to watch his growth throughout the classes from Junior Cup to Twins and now on a Supersport podium. Looks like Matthew Schultz is just cooling off. It is sure hot out here. Home race for you, and it has been one heck of a weekend. Were you expecting to be on this podium at the end of Saturday?
I was fairly confident that we should be part of the front group battling, but after the start, when I nearly looped the thing out backwards and dropped another 5-6 spots backwards, those guys pulled a big gap on me, and I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. But past a few guys, figured a few things out, and started catching them. And you know, unfortunately for Tyler, he crashed. It kind of helped me catch up a little bit sooner, save some of the tire. But I think I used too much of the edge of the rear just to catch up to them. But a massive thank you to Peter and Jessica Strack, Yamaha, all the guys that have really helped me get back to this championship. I'm just super happy to be up here, and hopefully we can carry on with this form and carry on challenging up front. And I just want to say a special shout out to Trig. I know that he's back home sick watching, and I really, really wish him all the best. Thank you.
Big congratulations to Matthew Schultz. Some incredible Supersport racing, you guys. Is this a sign of things to come this season?
Yeah, I think it is. And I mean, when you look at it, there's so many great stories, especially with the offseason and all the different changes with teams and everything else. But right now, it's all about this rider, PJ Jacobsen, with a big win. Our Supersport coverage will continue for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in a moment.
And as you watch Matthew Schultz now getting up onto the podium where they will start collecting the hardware. He made the mistake at the beginning, Roger, but you called it as we were sitting here watching it. The incident that happened for Tyler Scott, it really let Matthew get closer to that pack.
Yeah, he was already catching them, but all those guys, Blake had to run off the track to avoid him. PJ almost came to a stop to not run him over, and it cost those guys their lap times. A couple of seconds that lap, so it really helped Matt able to really close that gap a lot quicker. But like he said, he was just using way too much tire to try to make his passes, because he was making all of his passes, you know, on corner entry and corner exit where he's having to get these really good runs. And toward the end, you could see he was slipping and sliding a little bit, but I think if you would have asked him and that team last night at the end of the day if they would take a podium today, they probably wouldn't have believed it.
And when you watch the three of them and you heard those interviews, all three of them mentioned the tires. PJ Jacobsen said that he didn't have much grip at the end. Blake Davis said he was too aggressive at the start. He's hoping to get more out of it tomorrow. And then we just talked about Matthew Schultz. You think about the full season that's in front of us and the way that these riders are having to push each other, just that level of competition. There's a lot still to come.
There's a lot still to come, and also, you know, Tyler Scott as well. Look at Corey Alexander had his name right there in the hat, and Max Girardo as well. That was an awesome ride from him, even though he lost that battle a little bit. But what he can take from that was, I was with the lead group for half the race. Now next race, let's try to make it a couple more laps and then be there at the end. So that was a great run by him, and should be a really boost of confidence for him.
When we started off this weekend and we looked at the Supersport grid and who was going to be out there, Xavi Flores, the reigning champion, he's not racing in Supersport this year. You said Tyler Scott. That was the name on your list of whose championship is it potentially to win. He was our pole sitter going into the race today, but this was a turning point.
This was a huge crash headed up into turn 2. It was really early, so I'm not sure. We've seen guys go up there and grab the front brakes when they're on a little bit of the edge of the tire and lose the front. So didn't really see exactly where it started, but you could see how big that crash was. And you can see the corner workers, the bike was so mangled they couldn't even push it off. But, he's going to be disappointed. What he can take from that was he was in the lead.
And as we continue to wrap up Supersport, let's go back to Greg and Jason to round out that show.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
Back here in Braselton, Georgia, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and our first race Supersport for 2024. It's just an absolutely spectacular day, and people are lining the hillsides all over the place. Let's take a look at highlights from our race number 1, Supersport. And Jake got off to a very entertaining start.
Yeah, let's have a look at those highlights. Like you say, Greg, it was a great start from our pole sitter, Ty Scott. He would lead down into turn 1 with PJ Jacobson and Blake Davis along with Girardo doing the business there in 3rd and 4th. But this was the story. Ty Scott, guy who we think is going to be fighting for this championship, he makes a mistake, crashes at the top of the hill. That would close these top 4 riders up. They would drop Max Girardo back just a little bit. The battle was between Davis, PJ Jacobson, Matthew Skultz, who came from absolutely nowhere, and Corey Alexander. But Skultz shows his cards a little bit going up into turn 2, then gets back into turn 5, and PJ Jacobson and Blake Davis knew at that point, we've got to try to get away. Blake Davis makes a big bold pass down into turn 10, only to have the favor return to him as they went down to 12, and it's going to be PJ Jacobson winning the first Supersport race of the year.
So good job for PJ Jacobson, even though he said he was, spinning up a little bit, dirt tracking it all the way to the finish line. But if there's one rider that's got tons of talent to get it done, it's him. We'll be back with more coverage from Supersport, MotoAmerica style, in a minute.
We are back now at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, looking down live at the grid as the Steel Commander Superbike field is making their way around after the sighting laps, getting into their grid positions. Roger, where we can start to set up some things that we can look forward to.
Yeah, and this Superbike race is just, we talk about how deep that field is. And even the riders, when you interview a rider in the Superbike class at the front, they're all talking about the same thing, how deep the field is this year. And, we don't really, usually after the first day, you kind of know who the favorite is or who's kind of going to be the man. And going into this race, we don't really know. It's just so, Cam Beaubier has been really fast, really consistent, had that accident, won last year, but besides that, it's so unknown.
He led the first practice session, and then after 2 sessions of qualifying, you mentioned he had the accident, but he was able to get back out there. That was during the first session. He went back out today, was able to improve his time, but he starts back on the 2nd row in that 5th position. He won race number 1 here at Road Atlanta last year. Jake Gagne won the 2nd race. He is now the 3-time defending defending Superbike champion, but he starts also on the second row in that 4th position. You've got to look ahead of him. You got Bobby Fong on pole aboard that number 50 Yamaha from the Wrench Motorcycle. Sean Dillon Kelly making his return to Superbike competition, and he is starting alongside in that 2nd position with a new team on a new BMW. And you never saw this coming when we looked at the practice sessions, but here they all are.
Here they are, and the big thing is qualifying in the race is going to be so different.
We're going to go back to Greg and Jason.
All right, we're back here in Braselton, Georgia after a awesome Supersport race. Now, of course, it's our first race of the season, so this is a good opportunity to see how MotoAmerica scores them. 25 points for a win, and you get 20 for second, 16 for third, 13, 11, and then we go to ones. 10, 9, 8, 7. Let's go down to Hannah.
Certainly a name you've heard before in road racing. Ben Spies, now team principal on the operational side of things for the Rahal Ducati Moto Racing team. How does it feel to get that first race under your belt and coming away from it with a victory?
Got the adrenaline back up. I've kind of missed that for a little over a decade. So super happy for the team and for PJ especially. Had a real rough Daytona, and as a rider I know how it feels, and made some big changes and was able to give him a package to win. And you know, Corey Alexander rode super good, close to the podium, and Kayla had a good strong race. So yeah, I mean, it's just there's a lot of work after Daytona, and this validates everything. And like I said, I'm happy for PJ. He's got some confidence and ready to roll to tomorrow.
Great job all around. Thank you so much. Congrats, Ben. Guys.
And it's been great seeing Ben back in the paddock this season. And it's been a lot of talk about the past and about what's going on right now. And it's good to have him back in MotoAmerica competition. Wow, what a race we had in Supersport. We get to do it all again tomorrow for race number 2. And if this is the season we're going to have in Supersport, you don't want to miss a minute of it. PJ Jacobsen with the big W, but what's going to happen tomorrow? Everybody's going back to their trailers and doing some homework. And we certainly hope Ty Scott's in good enough shape to compete after his big incident. Well, for Hannah and Jason, I'm Greg. Thanks so much for watching Supersport here for MotoAmerica. Race number 2 on deck tomorrow. We'll see you then.